me down. Down to the rabbit hole. Follow me down. Follow me down. Rabbit hole.
Hello and welcome to the Rabbit Hole Heroines. My name is Jessica, the big weird mom.
And I'm Jess, crazy mother runner.
Well, we have a very special episode for you guys today. We are going to kind of build off last week's episode that we did on Josh Duggars, since conveniently the day after it aired, he was arrested. And I am just going to start off by adding a trigger warning for this entire show. If you have any issues with hearing about sexual violence, we're going to say just skip this episode, because that's going to be pretty much the entirety of this episode is talking about Josh Duggar and the allegations against him. If you or someone you know is affected by any of these issues, we encourage you to call RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And the number for that is 1-800-656-HOPE. So if anybody needs that, we will put it in the episode notes. And building on that, we have two very, very special guests today. We have Laura, the Pretty Basic, joining us again. And we have a special anonymous ex-fundee. We're going to be calling her Renee. Hi. And welcome, you guys. We're so glad to have you here. And we're just going to take a minute to kind of introduce you guys, tell us your handles, and tell us a little bit about your story. So let's start off with Renee.
Hi, I am an ex-fundee. I have grown up in IBLP ATI for a long time, was on staff at headquarters, have rubbed elbows with the Duggars. I am in no way friends with them, but I have had communication with them. I was roommates with one of the Duggars at something called Journey to the Heart, which is a part of IBLP. It's a 10-day retreat thing, for lack of a better way to say it. And I guess I'm a recovering, for lack of, I've just got all kinds of emotions about this week. It's been a trying week. I'm still recovering from it all.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we're hoping to dive into that, and we feel for all of you recovering ex-fundees. And next up, we have Laura, the Pretty Basic. Hi, welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me. So you guys pretty much know my story from last week, but I was also in ATI, IBLP, just like the Duggars. I did not know the Duggars personally, but I met most of the older Duggars and the parents at various conferences and things like that. I don't know them on that level, but I have been in their orbit, and I've been in their world in the sense that I know probably what's going on in their minds, maybe their hearts at the moment. So hopefully I can help with some of this.
So if any of us is just joining the conversation and you've been maybe living under a rock for the last couple of years, we have a summary of what kind of this story entails. So in 2015, it was kind of revealed that Josh Duggar inappropriately touched his sisters while they were sleeping. And as a result of that, 19 Kids and Counting was canceled, but the spin-off shows remained on. And initially, TLC said that they were going to keep Josh Duggar and the parents off of, they weren't going to get any screen time. As time went on, that kind of changed. So keep that in mind as we continue this conversation. As this came to light, it seemed like the the family really dug in their heels that this was something that Josh was led astray, and that this wasn't something that he was never going to do again, and it was just a result of a boy going through puberty. And
hang on, I'm going to interrupt you. It looks like he did make bail. Breaking news.
Oh my goodness.
I don't have details. I'm trying to find out right now.
Okay.
But just so you guys,
wow.
I'm going to mute myself while I make a quick phone call.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So we will give some more information on that as we have it. But for those of you who didn't know, he had his hearing today, and he was asking for bail. And it sounds like he just made it, because initially they said that he wasn't going to be let out, which for his victims, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So, and as we moved on from that incident in 2015, it became apparent pretty quickly that Josh Duggar was not just a one-time offender as far as being led astray, as they call it. Mm-hmm. A couple months after this came out, it was discovered in the Ashley Madison leak that he was having affairs on Ashley Madison. And shortly after that, a porn star came forward and said that not only did he pay her to have sex for 2 straight nights, but he was pretty abusive in that situation. Her name was Danica Dillon, and she claimed that he paid her $1,000 to spend 2 nights with her, and during these sexual encounters, he called her worthless and a dirty slut, and even spit in her face when she tried to push him away during rough intercourse. This was quoted from a Daily Mail article. Josh choked her and forced her to perform oral sex to the point that she could not breathe, and he has continuously denied these claims. She has said that she needed therapy after this incident, and that she still hasn't recovered from it. And those stories kind of went away. I didn't even really know about this until today when I did a little bit more research. And then, so fast forward to May 2019 is when he allegedly received 65 images of child pornography, as well as a 2-minute video. And it showed child pornography and abuse. And this video apparently showed a man and 2 kids. And it was quoted from the person who was investigating the file that it was in the top 5 worst cases that he has ever had to investigate. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of what we are dealing with here. Ladies, as ex-fundamentalists, how does this make you feel?
Angry. 100% angry at so many different people who along the way could have done things to prevent a whole lot of stuff. And that's just a common thread in fundamentalist circles, is not only that there's redemption, but that redemption is quick as long as you're sorry and you repent in front of God. Mm-hmm. So literally, you can turn around and turn a new page.
Sorry.
Sorry. Love that. So yeah, that you can somehow have redemption so quickly and then be let back into a situation where you fucked it up in the first place.
Right.
Is how this keeps happening.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle.
I just need to throw things. I'm so angry. I'm really sorry. He gets to have unfettered access to his children as long as Anna's there. And I just need to throw things. I'm so angry. I'm so unbelievably angry. And
I thought they were going to make him have a custodian to be around his own
kids.
kids.
He does.
Yeah.
So
but she counts?
So he has to go to the third party custodian, which is a family friend. And they teach, the woman teaches piano in her home with children, and I am having a very emotional reaction. Let me try and calm down.
Yeah.
I'm really, really sorry.
No.
Okay. So he can't have any pornography, which, like, I have so
Duh.
many words about that. No access
Yeah.
to any internet capable advice. He can have unlimited contact with his children if Anna is there, but not any other minor. Although the government does object to contact with his children, so it is unclear at this point because the paperwork hasn't been released what actually will happen there. If I'm assuming he's going to get to see his kids, I'm not sure where. All this is coming in from a friend of mine who's in the hearing, and she's having emotional responses as well. So I'm not really sure. I'm sure she's going to call me, but there's tons of typos in her text messages.
Yeah.
So he does have to have GPS monitoring at his cost, which don't even get me started on the money aspect of everything, but I am just losing my app. How does it make me feel? It makes me enraged that the money that is going to pay for this should have gone to his victims. And I just
Oh, 100%.
so disgusted.
Yeah.
I'm so disgusted. Okay, I'm done
I
now.
mean, it's no, don't feel ashamed of, and don't limit your emotions. This is a real moment for you. And I'm sorry that you have to be doing this in front of the public
It's okay.
eye. But unfortunately, like I'm not surprised. What have we seen from law enforcement in the past? When one of the things that I didn't include in the summary is that the Duggars reached out to a law enforcement officer who had the same problem as him. This is back, I can't remember the exact date when this happened, but
they reached out to him in around 2003 after he came back from his trip to Little Rock, Arkansas, which you can't see me, but the air quotes are so aggressive.
Aggressive air quotes. I'm going to do them for you, Renee. Aggressive air quotes.
And he received a stern talking to after that. And that was
in jail for 50 years for child pornography. Tell me you cannot pay me enough to believe that he didn't at least learn something from him. And that's stern talk,
You saw in that guy someone who was getting away with it, and that gave him hope.
As a police,
exactly.
that is something that my husband brought up, which
hope
is
and permission, basically.
Permission, because not only was he law enforcement, but nobody knew about it, or they knew about it and didn't care, or he was a law enforcement officer and he got tips from him. And all of that is my own supposition and opinion. Like, none of that is based in any fact. And my husband was just bringing it up, was like, he was exposed to this at 16 years old, 15, 16 years old. That guy was who they brought him to have this stern talking to. And now he's in jail for it. Like, that's not a coincidence. And I'm sorry if that offends somebody, but that's not a coincidence.
Right. Well, and we see this, this continuation of continuously supporting the man no matter what, and suppressing the woman. So it's protecting the man and squashing the victims. And this is exactly why, in my opinion, Jim Bob and Michelle are complicit in all of this. They are as much to blame. I think that Josh has something very seriously wrong with his brain, and that doesn't excuse him, but it leaves Michelle and Jim Bob on the hook. And I asked this to my husband earlier today. I said, what would you do if your kid, had this mental illness? Wouldn't you do everything that you possibly could to keep your child from hurting somebody else?
Oh yeah.
Meanwhile,
And
they
away
are
from your other children.
right.
Yes.
And they're putting their kids onto a national spotlight, which in turn excuses him even more from this.
Yeah.
And then, as we're going to see in a clip that we have, they're kind of putting blinders on to all of this rather than dealing with the problem. They're just saying, okay,
that's just
right. Exactly. And
so
I think
actually they didn't put blinders on it. The responsibility lies with the women to not defraud the men.
that's true.
And therefore he's almost unable to control himself. That's something that gets taught over and over and over inside ATI, inside IBLP. Even still, people are telling, when it comes to Anna in relation to Josh currently, it is her responsibility to fast and pray to save her husband. It's her responsibility to hold him accountable. It is her responsibility, and he does not have any responsibility. So it's not that they are putting blinders on it. It's that they genuinely don't believe he can help himself. And therefore, it's every female's around him responsibility to make sure that he controls himself. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, I really wanted to clarify that.
I feel like that, and that's probably I feel like that's a very fundamentalist viewpoint, is the fact that we put, I mean, again, I wasn't in this type of religion, but I was in Southern Baptist, and everything was my duty to fix. You know, I was the bridge between the family with communication. I was the one that made sure he did, you know, I protected him when he did things wrong. So like, you're 100% right. It's just so much.
Well, what's been a struggle for me too is my first gut reaction was get him out of society. What the fuck? Like, he doesn't deserve redemption. He doesn't deserve any kind of program to help him. I couldn't give a fuck. But I think at this point, because he's been excused and protected in a sense by the women so much because it's our fault, I don't know if he's ever going to come to a point where he thinks he has a problem. And in my experience with recovery and stuff, that's the only time that you're ever going to actually achieve change. So,
I mean,
we just look at the picture of him, the booking photo that he had. He looks like a smug asshole.
Like, that is not a man who's upset for
or guilty or feels guilty for his actions.
Which plays into the testimony that was read in court today, where he tried to blame literally everybody else around him, when in the hearing, the actual investigator stated that he was the first one to bring up CP charges. He was the one who brought it up to them, not the other way around.
Because if he brings it up first, then he has the control.
Well, honestly, I just think he was stupid. I think he was guilty. I'm sorry.
Bad moment.
I think he just didn't think in that moment about how that would look. It screams guilty.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that makes me want to
punch a wall.
Yeah.
Hope that he gets stuck on a treadmill made out of Legos in a desert for all of eternity in a snowsuit, listening to Justin Bieber sing Taylor Swift because you're not supposed to listen to that kind of music.
That is
barefoot on a treadmill made out of Legos.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, let's take a look at this clip and see how his sisters think that he should be punished. I put that in quotes. All right, let's take a look. This is the Megyn Kelly interview that the girls did after everything came to light in 2015. And they were coming out and speaking as, I call it victims. They don't exactly call it that. Well. So yeah, it doesn't age well. So let's take a look.
So Jessa and Jill, thank you both so much for being here. Let me start with your ages. You're 22, Jessa? Mm-hmm. And how old are you, Jill?
24.
Okay. So this happened a long time ago. How old were you? Let me start with you, Jill. How old were you when Josh inappropriately touched you?
I was 12.
12. And how about you?
I guess I was 9 or 10.
Okay. And you are going on the record as being two of Josh's victims. Mm-hmm. Does it feel strange to use that word?
You know, I think we didn't choose to come out and tell our story. This wouldn't have been our first choice, but now that this story has been brought about, we really feel like as we've been seeing these headlines, as we've been seeing things that people are saying about our family, we feel like as the victims, we have to come out and speak. This is something like we chose to do. Nobody asked us to do this. Jess and I were talking, we're like, oh my goodness, most of the stuff out there is lies. It's not truth. Mm-hmm. And so for truth's sake, we want to come out and set the record straight.
But sitting here today was when I said, victims, you furrowed your brow a little. I mean, do you feel like the victim of a molestation?
Well, I think in the case of what Josh did, it was very wrong. I'm not going to justify anything that he did or say it was okay. It's not permissible. But I do want to speak up in his defense against people who are calling him a child molester or a pedophile or a rapist, some people are saying. And I'm like, that is so overboard and a lie, really. I mean, people will get mad at me for saying that, but I'm like, I can say this, you know, I was one of the victims, so I can speak out and I can say this and set the record straight here. Like in Josh's case, he was a boy, young boy in puberty, and a little too curious about girls. And that got him into some trouble. And he made some bad choices. But really, the extent of it was mild, inappropriate touching on fully clothed victims. Most of it while girls were sleeping.
We didn't even know about it until he went and confessed it to my parents, and
Neither one of
they
you
shared
knew.
it with us. No.
None of the victims were aware of what happened until Joshua confessed, and then
It wasn't like we were keeping a secret, afraid or something. It was we didn't know until Josh explained to my parents what his thought process was, what everything was.
How did you learn about it? I mean, did your parents sit you down at a meeting, or
my
what happened?
parents took us aside individually, and they said, "Here's what's happened." And at that point, of course, you're like, "Oh, you're shocked," you know.
So your parents were the ones to tell you
Yeah, my parents.
you were molested, or
Yeah.
and you too,
Yeah.
at the same time or separately?
No, individually they talked.
What was let me start with you. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I was like shocked to kind of like, okay, this is strange. Like,
You had no memory of it?
I didn't know. I didn't understand, okay, this is what's happened until my parents told me. And so I think at that point it was just kind of like
It's like you never think like this will happen to me or something. And in our case, you know, it's very mild compared to what happens to some
I know
young
so many
women.
girls go
And
through things that are way worse.
So for me, even when my parents came and sat down and told me this, I was like, really? Like, you know, I'm sad, I'm shocked. At the same time, like Jessa was saying, I was shocked. You know, I'm like, okay, like, and I'm sad because this is my older brother who I love a lot. And so it's like, you know, they're conflicting there.
Did you feel angry?
I did. You know, I was angry at first. I was like, how could this happen? And then, you know, my parents explained to us what happened. And then Josh came and asked each of us individually, I know, but he asked me to forgive him. And I had to make that choice to forgive him, you know, and it wasn't something that somebody forced, like, oh, you need to do this, you know. It's like, you have to make that decision for yourself.
Okay, I watched this originally back when it happened, and then I've watched it recently or today again, and it just hit me. I know in my heart of hearts that the younger one wanted to say, we just thought it was normal, and she stopped herself. Did you guys catch that? Like, I just really felt like that was the word she wanted to say. We thought this was normal to me. And I feel like that's the really, really sad part of this whole thing is they're talking like one incident. In my heart of hearts, no, it's not one incident.
Well, and I don't
was
think
something that was
unless
likely going on and on and on.
Right. And unless the Duggar girls get to a place where they feel that they are safe and they feel like they can be brave and courageous, we won't ever know the real story at all. So also I think though trying to pressure them into telling it is also not correct. So it's, you know, it's frustrating and it makes you want to throw shit and, you know, but you have to let people tell their story as it's safe for them to do so.
Right.
And it's not safe. It's not safe.
So one of the reasons you guys don't see me right now is because my ex-husband was a part of the fundamental. Whoa, I can't even talk. Was a part of all of this mess. And there's a very good reason why he's my ex-husband. And one of the things that I want for these girls so desperately is for them to be able to find their own voice. And as someone who took a while to find their own voice and felt the pressure and felt the anxiety of trying to confront their abuser and trying to speak out against everything they've ever known for all of eternity, things that they think tie them to an eternal life,
Yeah.
the pressure and the stress and the guilt and the shame that they must feel breaks my heart for them. And
Yeah.
I see the comments that people say about all of the women, and I just want to scream at people that they don't understand. You cannot understand truly until you have lived it. And I just want people to have just a little bit of grace and compassion for them, because you
With
just
the girls,
don't understand.
not with Josh.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
I know that's what you're saying. I try to throw in
But
there.
they've been indoctrinated. I mean, that they
Yes.
have been indoctrinated to this mindset that they are expected to act a certain way, behave a certain way, respond to this type of behavior a certain way. You know, forgiveness. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel awful for those girls,
And there's
because
a
this
verse
is
in the
going to be a
Bible,
part of their
maybe-
life always.
Yeah, maybe someone. It's been a minute since I read the Bible. About forgiving people before they've ever even wronged you, just sort of having that mindset.
Yes.
So that is also an excellent scapegoat for people who
Right.
want to do the
Right.
wrong thing. Like, well, you're supposed to forgive me already. Like, shit.
I also
That's why-
feel that their defense of him is maybe tied to their feelings of guilt that they caused him to stumble, and that by them
Exactly.
defending him or trying to normalize, I guess, because that is exactly what that clip was doing, was they were trying to normalize what had happened to them and minimalize it, because they're trying to in my opinion, they are trying to minimize their own interaction and their own
For
guilt.
sure. And they did the thing that I still do to this day. I think everyone does it in a way, is we compare our trauma to other people, and we're like, oh, mine wasn't bad then because I didn't
Right.
go through this, or this. And so
Yeah.
mine is lesser somehow, or shouldn't hurt as much somehow, or shouldn't affect me at all because it was so tiny. And when I heard her say that, I mean, I've watched this interview before, but it's been a while. But when I heard that one part, I was like, I teared up a little bit. I'm like, no, it's all bad. It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's really hard to watch. And, you know, some of the things that have come up in the following years when we reflect on this situation, like that like responsibility is put on the kids from such a young age. I have something to read you guys. So somebody, I guess, a couple years ago saw in a screenshot of the house some rules that they have posted on a rule board, and I'm going to read some of them to you.
I know what you're going to read, and it makes my skin crawl.
So the list pertains to the children keeping their bodies safe from other people. The first rule states, "My body belongs to God. He gives good rules to help keep me safe." The list goes on to inform the kids that they are not to pair off in groups of less than 4. Another rule advises young Duggars that when playing hide and seek, they should always hide alone, not with another person. And the rest of the rules seem like simple common sense. The list suggests children should always keep their clothes on, lock restroom doors, and that they should tell their parents about any form of touching. The Duggars likely never wanted anyone to notice the sign, but someone did. And, you know,
The fact that they had it.
Yeah. And
Be
the
with
fact
4
that-
people. Be with 4 people, but be by yourself. How do you
Right.
explain that to a 5-year-old?
Well, yeah. And how do you explain that the safest place to be in this house is in the bathroom with the door locked? Like, that's not where the safest place in my house, I want my kids to know, is with me, with their family, that their family isn't going to hurt them, because I'm going to do everything in my power to keep the kids, you know, safe. You know, and it's so heartbreaking to see that is just just pounded into their heads.
Yeah. So I said in the last podcast that if anybody's seen my TikTok, I've been watching the earliest season of their show, and I had a visceral reaction to their shared closet. And I could not
Oh.
handle it. And on my TikTok, people are like, why? What's the big deal? It seems efficient. It seems, like a good idea. And I'm like, yeah, and I couldn't explain it. I couldn't figure out how to explain why I hated it so much. But I think in general, I just said, you know what? They have issues. There's Josh in the family. And I don't like the fact that there is a clothing change situation potential in a room with doors. I don't like it. And
Maybe I can try and verbalize it for you and correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
But it seems so out of the norm because by general standards, we protect our children. By the time they're 3 or 4, they're not bathing together. They're not sleeping together. There is zero expectation of privacy, and that violates personal autonomy. And what it's doing is decreasing them from individual souls, humans, people, to basically just props that they change and they feel like chess pieces. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I had that same reaction when I saw it forever ago. And that is, they're not people to them.
No. Yeah, correct. I still don't personally, I'm 35. I'm trying to remember how old I am. And I still don't fully own my own personal autonomy. I still don't fully believe that I belong to myself. And it's weird. It's tough. You've always belonged to God, which whatever that means, but and then since you belong to God, then you actually belong to the men in the cult because they're God. So
that umbrella of protection, that is such a false sense of security. And I think I mentioned it to Jessica via text message. I could be incorrect, but the dichotomy of serving an almighty God while having all of this control over the bad things that happen to you because you have unconfessed sin, more aggressive air quotes, I'm shaking the back of my chair. I'm so angry. I'm trying to convey it without like shouting at you guys. And I know,
shout away.
But it's the dichotomy of being your own person and being in so much control, but you can't even change by yourselves. You can't have your own room. You can't have anything that is your own. They didn't have journals, which, by the way, if you didn't hear, one of the girls had their journals stolen by somebody that came in with filming crew by TLC. Like they have no personhood. And you really, especially the women, you're not your own person. You are a vessel of fertility, and that's all you are. And I realize that sounds harsh and aggressive, but that's what it is. And I say that really bluntly.
I think this is a good question to y'all. Do you think this behavior is learned? And we touched on this a little bit last week, but I'd love to hear Renee's take on and Laura's take on this question.
Renee.
Do you think this is a learned behavior or maybe something that has been experienced? I believe fundamentally that ATI, Advanced Training Institute, IBLP, Institute of Basic Life Principles, instills a lack of humanity into women, and therefore there is a mental break between being able to see any kind of morality in dealing with women, and therefore that makes this situation so much more
normal.
Not normal, but so much.
I'm thinking on their level, normal, not normal for us.
On top of that, there's that sexual repression and shame that is instantly connected from almost birth about anything to do with sex. I don't, Lara, maybe you can speak to this too, but I can't remember a single individual that I have ever met that referred to female and male anatomy as their actual names. It was never addressed. There's nothing. And even in their homeschooling curriculum, there is nothing about sex education. And as long as you don't talk about it, it's not a thing, right? So then there's that covering of darkness that they like to refer to, that secrets flourish in the darkness, the shame of it. And therefore, it's just if you don't talk about it, you can then claim some kind of ignorance. You didn't know it was wrong.
Right, right. And even I was making excuses for him last week when I said, when you're raised in this pressure cooker of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't this. And then I said, well, of course it's going to come out sideways. And I didn't mean that as in like he gets an excuse. I mean it as like, this is what made it even worse than it
Groomed.
could
He's been
be
groomed to be that way.
Right. Right, when he should have gotten help for it when he first started, and
Yeah.
that's what I meant by
So
that.
for Michelle, is she referring to? I think that with Josh, is it a learned behavior with him or something that he experienced? Is that what she means?
I think, I don't think, okay, I see. Like, if she's asking if his actions were
like, do you
because
think
something
Josh,
happened he was exposed to, or something that he just felt was acceptable because of his raising.
Do you think Josh was, I don't know, as
harmed in his own way at some point in his life?
Yeah.
I think
that's what she said.
I think that by being indoctrinated from birth, he was harmed. Do I think that he was assaulted as an own individual? No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so either.
ATI and IBLP actually, and Laura, you may be able to speak to this. It's actually very rampant to have sibling on sibling abuse. And by that, I mean, it is, especially at that very young age, they know, and it can be incredibly damaging to the children because there is an element where it is normal. Like, I mean, I have a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old who's going to school who I had to go pick up because he was running around, he's potty training, and he was running around without his pants on going, look, I can make it wiggle, which is 100% normal in a 3-year-old who's learned, like, that is right. Not, I mean, you have to teach them this isn't acceptable and you have to explain why. But when you don't have other people around and you don't have people balancing the crazy that is IBLP and ATI, and you already have that shame inherent in the teaching itself, it then breeds this environment that makes abuse of it, that creates this almost exciting aspect to experiencing all of these things. And when you don't have friends,
we're forbidden. It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wanted to mention, just someone had commented this on my TikTok as well. Several people were like, well, isn't he a victim also because he was raised in a cult, etc. And to be honest with you, I don't think that even needs addressing because it simply doesn't matter at this point. This is, in my opinion, there's not a way to be redeemable now. He needs to be separate from society, children, everyone. So I don't care if he was a victim of a cult in his childhood, because if this is the result, that this is the path that he chose, then he needs to suffer those consequences. These were intentional choices. These were choices. He needs to pay the consequences for those choices. And I can speak from experience. I can't remember if I mentioned this last time on the podcast, but one of my coping mechanisms when I was out in my early 20s was shoplifting. I shoplifted all the fucking time. I couldn't stop myself. It was oh my God.
I'm really sorry. Don't tell my mom.
I ended up don't tell your mom you're here.
Don't tell my mom I'm here.
I ended up in jail 4 separate times because of it.
Oh, that never happened. I think I did it like I think I did it maybe like 4 or 5 times, and I was probably 17. I was just
on a rampage apparently, and I have paid my dues for that. I've paid restitution. I went through the court system. I did probation. So I've paid my consequences. Now it's time for Josh to pay his.
100%. Amen.
Well, yeah, and that kind of links up with what I was saying earlier. I think that we need to put the blame that it went this far on his parents for not nipping in the bud. But
I'm waving my arms. I'm stopping you. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I have to. No, it is not they have their own responsibility. These are he is, the one thing I cannot stand is that people are treating him like he doesn't know the world, that like he's an incredibly intelligent individual. He is incredibly tech savvy. These are all his own choices, and he is so smug because people are saying, "Oh, it's his parents' responsibility. It's his siblings' responsibility. It's the
But are
cult's
they saying
responsibility."
that now, or are they saying that?
It's now still.
Well, no, I know now, but I think from what I've seen, it's just that they're saying back when this stuff went down with the girls.
No, he was already a tech savvy person at 14.
No,
and 15.
no, I get that, but people are kind of questioning, why didn't Jim Bob and Michelle take more direct and
Because they're
extreme
greedy
action
assholes.
Then there we go.
Right.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying is
Take advantage
if
of
they
the
had
situation.
taken
Right.
appropriate action when he first started to show that he had a mental, that he had mental problems that were leading him to do these
Sexual
very
addiction.
wrong things that are, yes, his fault. I'm not saying that his parents are at fault for what he did. I'm saying that they're at fault because they didn't put him in a mental institution or whatever you do to a kid who's showing that they are going to be a pedophile. Like,
Right.
what do you
Address
do in
it.
that
They
situation?
didn't address
But
it.
Right.
no matter what, they did it wrong. They
Yeah.
did the, you had one job and they did it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your one job is to make sure that you're raising a decent human in this
So-
life. And they were more focused on other things. And that doesn't take any of the blame off of him, but it just, that adds to the victims who are,
And people want reasons always. People
Right,
want reasons.
totally.
And so, it's we're trying, it's such a deep, harmful, hurtful subject for so many people that we're just trying to grasp on to anything that makes us feel better about it or
Makes it
makes
make
us
sense.
understand more. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
the speculation here is, of course, just speculation. And we're, obviously, I think, in my personal opinion, that Jim Bob and Michelle should also be in jail, but that's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, that, and I
We
think
can
that a
only
lot
hope.
of these feelings are coming from reading the statements that are coming out and have come out in the last couple of days that have just made me mad. I think that TLC is complicit in this. I think
Yes.
that
They
Jim
were
Bob and
making
Michelle,
money.
I mean, I think that there's blame to be found a lot of places, but mostly obviously it's Josh. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and read these statements that have come out, and I want you guys to
I'm going to mute
excuse me,
myself.
tell me your reactions. Yeah. So this is the statement from Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. We appreciate your continued prayers for our family at this time. The accusations brought against Joshua today are very serious. It is our prayer that the truth, no matter what it is, will come to light and that this will all be resolved in a timely manner. We love Josh and Anna and continue to pray for their family.
I'm a parent to a boy, and I can tell you, if my kid was accused of this, I'd be the first one at the courthouse saying, lock him up.
Same.
Because a federal case like this, 90% conviction rate. They wouldn't bring this to someone, especially someone in the public eye, that he wasn't 100% guilty of. So I'm sorry. You're trash.
My dogs are fighting. I'm so sorry. Hold on, I'm going to put them outside. I'll be back.
Okay.
Wait, how do I mute?
I'll mute you.
I got it.
I mean, I think both of you are parents. What would you do if this was your kid?
Oh, I mean, I would love my child, but I would still be like, you have to be accountable for your actions, period. Like, you have to be held accountable for your actions.
Absolutely.
You don't get to do these kind of things and pray it away. You're not going to pray it away. You can't pray away what those people experienced.
Right. And I think that's something that Jim Bob said along the line somewhere. I'm remembering a quote that's floating around in my mind that he said, that he, his first priority was to send him, to whatever version of reprogramming is in this church, which obviously did no good because it's just reaffirming the issues that are compounding this problem in the first place. But
he's the head of the household and can do whatever he wants, basically.
Well, in 2013, or I'm sorry, in 2003 or in 2000, it might have been 2002 that he actually lost his political race that where he ran on the fact that rape and incest should be capital crimes. Where's that energy now, Jim Bob?
Yeah.
That
He
goes
did
for a
lose
lot
that
of
race,
conservatives. You
Well,
know,
and I
that,
think
and that
Oh, a lot.
we're also seeing, so even though, you know, we're dealing with a cult situation, it's still very much systematic white male privilege just at its core. So that, along with the cult mindset, is like a double whammy. Like there was, it's just.
What, you know, I did my video the day after, or maybe it was the day after that we did our podcast, so last Thursday. And I mentioned in it that at the end, I said, you know, I feel like the real concern right now is the fact that, you know, dealing with child sex trafficking or child pornography, it is 76% white males. That is the statistic. Not talking about general sex crimes, but specifically with children related. And I said, and we see so many, you know, like an article that I read today was talking about the fact that the recent shooting of the bathhouses, or whatever you want to call them, the massage parlors, the mass shooting that went on a rampant and killed several Asian women and 2, you know, white women. It was fueled by his sexual desires, or the fact that he was angry that he had sexual desires. So it's just another example of this, again, going back on this suppression. And it's not taking the blame away from the men. At the end of the day, it's the men's fault. But it's just saying that we're creating an environment that is telling them, you know, we can't sexualize anything, shame, 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 shame. And then when they act upon these things that we've suppressed from day one, from birth, we're like, oh, why did this happen? So, you know, I kind of made an attack on the church in my video, not direct, but I just, you know, and I got assaulted by people like, you're blaming the church. I'm like, in a sense I am. I'm like, because that's the mentality where this is being bred from. You know, this is the mentality that it's stemming from, because God didn't say in the Bible, like, I mean, straight off the bat, God made man, woman, get to business, have babies. Like he wasn't hiding sexuality in the Bible. So why are we hiding it in daily life? You know, I don't know if I talked about it in this one, but I've spoken about it before. No, I think I talked about it live, that in my former church, we had 4 teenage girls, count them 4, come forward in front of our church and have to admit their sin of getting knocked up.
Oh, I want to throw things. 2
of the girls had to do it twice. Both
what
teenagers.
pastor is that? I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him.
Right. But here's the deal. All of the
pastor,
guilt and shame was put on these young ladies, not the men that participated. They didn't have to get up in front of the church and apologize for their sin.
Of course not.
You know, and beg for forgiveness of the church. And that's what these young girls the youngest was 15, the oldest was 17. And I'm just like,
just give me his address. I want to talk.
I left that church. I left that church. But just having to, like, I hurt for them. The fact that their parents thought that was acceptable, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it goes straight back to that mentality that men have no blame in these situations. And yet they are the ones that are also being told to suppress their sexuality. But when they act on it, we make excuses.
Here's what I want to know too, is the boys, men in the fundy circles always get this redemption arc where they're allowed to go to treatment or counseling or whatever. Where's that for the women? We don't get
that. Where they get brushed under the rug and excommunicated.
Yeah, that's why I left my church, because they told me I couldn't have, literally couldn't have counseling without my ex-husband.
Yeah, you won't.
I'm like, he had the affair, he did all this stuff, but nope, you have to counsel with him. We can't counsel just you and worry about you. We have to worry about the marriage. And I'm like, bye.
Well, and then going back to the Megyn Kelly interview too, where they said that they, somewhere along in that interview, they said that they had received therapy. Does anybody know what kind of therapy that actually was? Because I know that that's not allowed.
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that interview, but I'm 97% positive they were actually referring to Josh, who had been sent to Little Rock, Arkansas to go through therapy. I'm not sure. But I mean, I know they
was it at the Little Rock Training Center, or was it actual therapy? Do we even know?
No, I think they said that they had gotten therapy. The girls had therapy.
Let me go double check, because
okay.
I know. Well, yeah,
sometimes when ATI people say they have had their children in therapy or something, they actually mean they sent them to a training center to do a program. So it's not necessarily going to mean,
or maybe talked with their pastor leader or whatever.
Right.
I do know that they were called by leadership of ATI IBLP, but I know the context of those conversations, and I know that that wasn't counseling.
Yeah.
So let me go
I doubt it
double
was
check.
real counseling. I'm sure it was their form, their alternative.
I do know that Jill now is in counseling, like in actual therapy with a licensed therapist.
Oh, good.
Like as of recently, she's been talking about it on her social media.
But I mean, no one should have to, but I'm just like, I'm curious. Like, you shouldn't have to prove that you've gone to therapy or anything. But since they said it in the interview, I was just curious.
I may have missed that.
I think it was their version of therapy. I'm sure of that.
Because therapy isn't allowed at all with ATI. I mean, okay.
No, we call it counseling in the church, and it's a pastor and maybe his wife. And that's the extent of your counseling. Zero qualifications to tell you how to be better and live life. And
well, I'm not at all surprised.
I have to make a distinction here. IBLP old leader who resigned and disgraced Bill Gothard is on record telling women that it will diminish their ability to serve God if they seek treatment. They just should pray about it. So that's disgusting, but that is something that he's
pray away the abuse I experienced.
It's only towards women, and it's only to pray about the sin that you committed in causing somebody to abuse you.
Right. By what? I mean, you know, Renee sent me a podcast that I listened to.
Oh my God.
Earlier today, in which they talked about, you know, all the pamphlets and everything. And she's like, oh my gosh, I forgot we weren't allowed to wink. There's a whole pamphlet about using seduction with your eyes and how women should not use their eyes for any seduction purpose.
I actually saved a screenshot.
Can you read it?
I can't wink, so I'm screwed. There's no seduction coming out of my eyeballs.
No, there was a screenshot that I found recently, and I have more than 10,000 photos, none of them pornographic, interestingly enough, on my phone. I'm sorry, that was really snarky.
It took me a minute. I'm like, oh, okay.
that was a straight dig, where they talk about how it's a pamphlet handed out to women who have been abused, talking about how you would rather, the question on it, and I'm looking for the screenshot right now, the question on it literally states, would you rather be strong, or would you rather and be closer to God, or would you rather have been not gone through the abuse? That's literally what they ask people.
I'm
looking for the screenshot right now.
Speechless.
It's so, like, I don't know if anyone.
I got it. The question is if so it's called counseling sexual abuse. Jessica, if I email it to you, can you, or if I send it to you in a screenshot, can you post it, or can you put it on your Instagram maybe?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Which, by the way, this just came to mind. There's counseling seminars for both boys and girls, and you can go to this counseling seminar starting age 14, and they tell you how to counsel people in things like this.
Mm-hmm.
They teach
starting
you
at 14.
They teach 14. You, hey, this is probably going to happen to you in this church. So just heads up. Let's tell you how to deal with it.
But they didn't. No, they weren't teaching you how to deal with it. They were teaching us as 14-year-olds how to tell other people how to deal with it.
Yes, that's how bad it was.
That's what the counseling seminar was about.
Yeah, because that's what 14-years-olds need. Not learning about sex ed and what bodies actually do. To teach people how to deal with
and because
sexual assault.
Because Bill Gothard ran on the assumption that you're gonna be so scared of going to hell that you're gonna be perfect. So you're gonna need tools to tell other people how to be perfect too. So you're gonna need all these counseling tools.
Yep. So number 8 on this 10 numbered checklist says, if you had to choose no physical abuse or mighty in spirit, what would you choose? Number 9 is reason for bitterness. And the way you're supposed to handle it is he damaged your body. Important step, dedicate your body to God. And it's literally a picture of like one of the old school rock altars. And then number 10 to get over it is prayer to dedicate body to God. Place yourself on his altar to serve him, forgive offender, turn over to God for his discipline, or ask God to pardon regain surrendered ground, cleanse with Ramus. And I'm literally shaking reading this because I have this because it was sent to me when my ex-husband tried to unalive me. And I'm just so angry right now.
Well, I don't know if any of y'all
those words and like the rhetoric and those buzzwords that they use, I'm just like, I'm prickled. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, nope.
I don't know if any of y'all, so it's funny. I just watched a clip of Steven Crowder. I just hate him so much. But anyways, but he was literally kind of talking about this mentality where he was talking about Billie Eilish, who's 19, and her recent Vogue, like she dyed her hair. She looked stunning. She was wearing a corset. And he was basically like, yeah, women wear corsets so that we lust after them. And like, it was an entire podcast of him just basically blaming women for their sexual desires.
I can
and
promise him, Billie Eilish wouldn't give two shits about Steven fucking Crowder.
Yeah, no.
I wear my corset because it helps with my back pain. Thank you very much, whoever you are. I'm sure you're old like dude.
He's a piece of shit conservative on the internet that has way too many followings. But But yeah, no, but it was just funny because then he literally did a comparison. He goes, if you see a woman, in a corset with tons of makeup on, that's the girl you want to take and have sex with. But if you see a girl that's modestly dressed, but still just as beautiful, that's the one you want to take home to marry. I'm like, what the actual fuck am I watching?
So he's basically telling people dress modest or I'm going to rape you.
Basically, that's pretty much what Steven Crowder is telling the world. Dress like a skank, and I'm going to.
And that's funny, Christian. That's just the mentality too. So it's like
they're laughing about it, like it's a joke. To them.
And I've had people on my TikTok when I've talked about dressing modestly or whatever, sort of defend it, and I'm like, let's think about why you're defending the way you dress, because it's not your responsibility to care about other people's thoughts. It's your responsibility to be whatever the fuck you want to be.
Correct.
And the fact that you are a little bit afraid of not being modest is something you need to take a look at.
Yeah. But people like him continue to exist, continue to have a platform. Yeah. I mean, this man has millions of followers. Yeah. It's just disgusting because that is that same that church in an evangelical mindset that it's the women's fault if I act on the things I do.
Right. If you cause the men to stumble.
It's so hard, guys.
I know.
It's so hard.
So I have a question for you ladies. Since you were raised in that, I wasn't raised at all with, modesty. My mom was like, you wear what you want, girl. Like she backed me up when I got like sent home for wearing spaghetti straps or whatever, and like, so like, I don't really, I go to Burning Man and run around naked. Like I have nothing in my head about what clothes I'm
There's
wearing.
no limits on Jessica. Yeah. There's no limit.
I love it.
Like, how has that affected you guys, as you've moved out of ATI and moved out of this conservative situation? Do you find yourself still being affected by it and what you're wearing every day?
You want me to go first, Renee?
Anyone, yeah.
For me, it's simply, I don't, this could be hard for me to put into words. Wow. Maybe I need Renee to go first.
Renee's still there.
Renee's still there. She'll be back. Hold on. She's taking a moment.
She's knocking down drywall in her house.
Building a treadmill of Legos.
Oh, I see what she's doing. Okay, back to go ahead.
I don't know how to dress for myself. I only know how to dress for anything else. Yeah. And I have the worst self-esteem. It's at a 0. I don't even know what like body good self-esteem is. And it's at a 0 in the sense that I don't think about it, because if I think about it, I'll have to deal with it.
Right.
And that's not on the agenda for a while yet.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how to dress for myself. I don't. I have no clue what if I would imagine how I would dress. Who is Laura? How does Laura dress? What type of style does she have? I have no fucking clue. no idea.
I
what
mean,
you like.
you're wearing a shirt that says fuck, so
Well, I do like putting bad words on t-shirts. That's true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
I mean, fuck sums
I
it
made
up.
this.
Fuck
I
sums
made
it up.
this myself.
I fucked myself. That's you.
I had a little bit different experience. So I actually developed an eating disorder very, very young. I distinctly remember a very clear moment when I was 7. I was laying on the back of the couch and I was kicking my legs and I was wearing a pair of capris and a hoodie. And my sister told me, and she's 10 years older than me. So I was 7 and she's 10 years older than me. And I was kicking my legs on the back of the couch. And she said, wow, your legs jiggle like an ocean. Maybe you should stop eating so much. And
I'm sorry.
hey,
Where does she live? What's her address?
I'll give that to you as soon as this is over. And I struggle with an eating disorder. I still do. For me, I'll just be real blunt with all of you. I reclaimed my own body and after being sexually assaulted multiple times, one to my ex-husband. My husband and I have a joint OnlyFans and I work through it with my therapist a lot. And a lot of it is just having the ability to reclaim things that my ex-husband put out revenge porn on me. So being able to reclaim some of that for myself and being able to speak to it. I clap back hard, so hard when people tell me that I'm being immodest. Well, don't look then. I'm not I had to come to the decision, and I'm 30 years old. This just happened in the last year that I'm even able to have this conversation where I get to dress for what I think looks good and what my husband thinks looks good. And having somebody who embraces who I am on every level, especially after having 2 kids, because go through everything you've been through as an ex-fundamentalist and then have kids, that'll fuck you up.
Yep.
And
I don't have kids. I don't.
I'll be here when you do. If you ever do, I'll be here to deal with the aftermath of that, because it was incredibly difficult. Yeah, it's very hard. And having somebody who will be like, hey, I was on Amazon and I saw this really cute shirt and it's like a low cut top. And he's like, I think we should wear this when we go out next, or whatever. Having somebody who verbalizes things to me for me was incredibly helpful. And to be very clear, this is my current husband and not my ex-husband. My ex-husband can get eaten by an alligator. My current husband's amazing. And
Same.
I still struggle. I struggle so much because like even today, I called my husband at 3:30 when there still wasn't results on everything. One of the things that is a large part of ATI and IBLP is the control aspect. I told him, I was like, I want to go to McDonald's and I want to eat a cheeseburger so that I can throw up on the side of the road. And that is just so unhealthy. That's so unhealthy. But at least I can call and verbalize it. And that is tied into my feelings of inadequacy and my rage about feeling helpless. And it's one of those things that until you live it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I say something
this
really quick that
of course.
just occurred to me. Like I'm having a realization as she's talking. So I just got divorced for the second time. And one of the big, I know, maybe third time will be the time. Who knows? No. Anyways, so one of the big issues I had with him was he treated my body like an object, not like there was a person inside of it.
Yeah.
And so from the jump in the cults, my body has always been an object. There's never been a person inside of it. So throughout my whole life, this is a theme. And so with the last guy, my body was his. And I have no resolution to this comment. I'm just now realizing this as we're talking.
Right.
Like, holy shit.
You're having an epiphany in the moment.
And
but I know what you mean there. I know exactly what you mean. I wasn't raised in the fundamental, like I wasn't raised in the church. I didn't go to church and come to Christ until I was 21 or 20. So I was raised in a relatively conservative style home. Like my mom, like we didn't like sex talk was kind of taboo. And, so I would hide a lot of things from her and just didn't have open communication. And that, like with my daughters, I have a 16-year-old, like that was one of the first things I was like, I'm not going to have that. Like, it's going to be better. It's going to be open. Like we're going to have dialogue, and we do. But like, then when I met my ex-husband and he was in the church, and I married the church and I married his family. I didn't like, you know what I mean? Like we didn't have a relationship. I had a relationship with his family.
Yeah.
And then I feel like he seeked me out because at the time I did seem like an outsider to him. Like, I think he thought I would not be a member of the church. Like I would be like the rebel to his family. Because I was pierced everywhere. I had tattoos. I was like a sailor. I smoked cigarettes. Like you wouldn't even recognize me. And I mean, I was a mess, but but I was like,
sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, I was amazing, but
And
then I met him and I was like, I got saved. And then and I started dressing differently and I started behaving differently. And I started to die a little bit inside every time. And, had babies and, so on. But, he would do abusive things, like really, like in the relationship. And it wasn't about me and him as individuals. Like you said, like I was like, sex was a chore. Like it was something I knocked out of the way once a week and didn't have to worry about it. It wasn't, where now it's a totally different situation. Yeah. And I'm with somebody that like we communicate and verbalize everything inside and outside the bedroom. Like, so it's just, it's so different to be with someone who looks at you as a partner.
Yeah.
And not
as an object.
And I mean, not
maybe
as a
one day I'll
housewife
find out what that's like. I don't know. It sounds amazing.
It's amazing.
Well,
Highly recommend
the ridiculous thing is that, they go in that Megyn Kelly interview, the girls go on to say, like, this was a direct quote, that they were somehow got on the topic of porn companies. And one of them said, porn companies make objects out of women.
Well, that's ironic.
That's what she said when she was saying that he needs to steer clear of these porn companies because they make objects out of women, as if they don't do the same thing. Like it's just crazy to me.
They didn't need porn for that.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. So
that was an excuse. It was just I mean, it's just excuses.
Right. Absolutely. So moving on to the next statement, let's hear what TLC had to say about the new
I have
Josh
so much
Duggar
to say. You told me to mind my business, so I have so much to say. But go read it.
TLC is saddened to learn about the continued troubles involving Josh Duggar. The network said in a statement, 19 Kids and Counting has not aired since 2015. TLC canceled the show on the heels of prior allegations against Josh Duggar, and he has not appeared on air since then. So the first thing out of their mouth is some words of defense. Yeah, they're wiping their hands clean.
Not our fault. Not our.
We cut ties. We knew we did the right thing. Now it's on him.
But they didn't. I mean, also, Jim Bob, Michelle and Josh have been on screen since then.
Well, that's true. And also why, I mean, they this show is available. I can watch it. I can watch every single from the beginning, like I'm doing. Why?
They're still making money.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they canceled Honey Boo Boo or whatever because Mama was associated with somebody. Where's that energy now, TLC? It's you know where it is? It's because so many people tune into this and it's money. It is money.
Always. Just follow the money and you'll find the motive.
It makes me so angry. At least call a spade a spade. It's not Jill and Jessa counting on. This is just a rebrand of 19 Kids and Counting because Jill hasn't been on since 2017.
And to be honest with you, I thought Counting On was still everyone. I just thought they named it something different. And I'm probably not the only one that thinks that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they think in their heads that they're absolved in this because they're supporting the victims, I think. I think that TLC is so deep in their dumpster fire that they think that that they're doing the right thing.
Jill had to sue her dad to get paid. So how exactly are they supporting the victims? Please riddle me that, Batman.
Also, I feel like, and I don't know how this would even work, but if someone gets assaulted while they're on your show, shouldn't you have to pay for like the fallout of that?
Yeah,
Like
I don't think they
liability?
got assaulted during. They weren't on the show.
No, not on the show, but during the filming time. Was that before they started filming?
I think so.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So in 2000, the very first, well, kind of yes and no. So what is reported happened in 2002 and 2003, and then in 2006. They were supposed to go on Oprah's TV show, and Oprah got an anonymous fax or email or letter or some bullshit. I don't know. Because somebody reported what was going on. And there's dispute as to whether the show, like Oprah, called the local police or the person who faxed the letter. There's no real concrete evidence, but in 2006, there was another police report filed. Now there's dispute as to whether there was one that was actually filed in 2003 or if the only one that exists was the one that was released was the 2006 one, which was released in 2015 by In Touch. Sorry, I know all of this stuff.
No, I'm glad because
don't apologize.
I haven't kept up with them at all, except for the Josh stuff. So this is helpful.
So in 2015, they released In Touch. Well, in 2015, I want to say in the end of 2015, In Touch filed a FOIA request requesting this information. Do I think that the police department should have released this information? I don't really know. I have a lot of feelings about it as someone who was sexually assaulted, but these 5 girls were minors, and that was not really taken into account. And I really hope the women get paid. And have a court case that should be heard in, I want to say, September of this year, which is now. I want you guys to think about this. This is 6 years later.
Right.
Crazy.
Right. And isn't that the only thing that Jim Bob and Michelle really did after this came out? Because in that, I really encourage you guys to go watch this Megyn Kelly interview, because the whole thing did not age well at all. But they go on to say about how they trusted these people to share their story, and then they went on and shared it with the tabloids.
So
and go ahead.
Clarifying points. Jim Bob and Michelle say that they went to the police when Josh told them. To the best of my understanding, that is not accurate. The police called them after this anonymous report was made in 2016. They did in 2003. Now, the first incident that we have tracked that they knew about it was in 2002. More happened in 2003. And then that was when they went to the guy that is now in jail. And and he did not report it correctly. Whether he reported it or not is debatable, but he did not report it correctly. So then in 2006, they had this case that was this police report that got released. So the thing about, and this is again in ATI, IBLP, my own mother does this, the legality of it. One of the things that disturbs me the most is my mom had a massive secret, something that she used against me growing up most of my life and into adulthood. And her thing was, well, I said this, which it was such and I don't want to say it because I'm trying to keep my own family's privacy as well. Yeah. But it would be like saying, so for example, if it's something like her saying, I wrecked the car and then I tested, and then it was found that I had alcohol, instead of saying I got drunk and drove my car. Both statements are factually correct, but one leads you to believe that. So that's a bad example. I drove my car and then I had a drink. But she was drunk when she crashed the car. My mom never drove drunk. I'm just using that as an example because it's the best one I can come up with.
You understand.
But it's the legality. So she may have driven the car drunk and then had a drink, that might be the legality is correct. And that's the same thing. Technically, they did go and tell this police officer, but nothing was handled accurately. And so in 2006, which is when this report came out, a lot of people are under the assumption that they went to the police at this point in time when this report got released in 2015, which is, 9 years later. But that is, in fact, never accurate. They did not report anything until it became to the point where they couldn't control it. Sorry.
Right.
That was a lot of words.
No, that's fine. Thank you for clarifying. And that answered my question that I didn't even ask yet.
Sorry.
So do you, we're kind of getting to the end of the episode here. Do you ladies have anything more you want to add, just as far as like how this has made you feel, what your hopes are for the future, and kind of what the message that you want our followers to hear about this whole situation? Laura, do you want to go first?
Sure. I said it on my TikTok, but just briefly, that as angry as I am, I'm also hopeful, because since it's a federal investigation, it makes me feel like there might be someone looking into Bill Gothard, maybe even Gil Bates, maybe even Jim Bob himself, that we don't know about yet, but we might see more hopeful legal things coming to surface that more people need to be arrested, so many more. So that makes me really hopeful.
Good.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing that Laura said. So one of the things that gets repeated to me the most, especially from people that are still in, is, if this is so bad, why do you sound excited when you talk about it? For those of us that have already left the cult, some of us were abused. Some of us witnessed abuse. Some of us were silenced. Some of us stayed silent. And for us, speaking just for myself and a couple people that I talk to on a regular basis, this is a moment of vindication for us, where we feel like we have screamed into the void for so fucking long and nobody has heard us. We want to see him hang for this, and not because we're bitter, and not because we are just out for blood, and not because we get some kind of perverse satisfaction out of this, but because this is something that has been so long coming. And like Laura said, we just want change. We want this to be different. I want to say something about a comment. Someone said, I don't trust that his wife Anna can protect her children. And I want to caution everybody to realize that Anna doesn't have a high school education. She doesn't have any skills. She's never held a job. She started dating him when she was 18. She got married when she's 20. She's on her 7th pregnancy. She would have to go support herself. I just caution you to understand that there are so many other parts that she probably feels so stuck and so pressured and so afraid in this moment, that I would caution you to use the term. I have deleted so many comments from people who have told me, well, she's responsible too. No. If you want to hold other people responsible, hold Jim Bob and Michelle. Anna, her own father, when everything happened with Ashley Madison, his response to her was, well, King David had an affair too. And that
Jesus Christ.
So please,
they see themselves as kings.
please have some understanding that there's so much more at play. On top of that, she's probably been told she could lose her children. She's probably acting out of fear, and that can make even mothers do really insane things. The only other thing I want to mention is there have been people saying that, and this came out in the news today, that there was whatever that tracking account is, Covenant Eyes, and they're blaming Anna because she should have detailed reports of what he was seeing. Josh is a tech wizard, and he had an entire portion of his computer sectioned off. So there is a very, very real option, and I don't know if this is true, but that she really didn't know.
Oh yeah, you can get around that shit.
I'm sure she didn't.
So I just wanted, I am not leg humping the Duggars. I'm not supporting them. I'm not defending them. I'm just saying there's so much more out there that people don't understand. So I wanted to, I am afraid for her. I'm afraid for her children. I am afraid that now that he has been released, that this is going to push him to greater violence. So that's all.
Right. And we've heard that he is like, this is from someone who was not raised in any church whatsoever. This is something that I see from the outside looking in. I have a lot of compassion for her, because not only is whatever move she makes in this situation, she's making the wrong. She's doing something wrong in someone's eyes. If she divorces him, she's gonna be excommunicated. If she doesn't divorce him, the court of public opinion is going to castrate her for that. Putting yourself,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, putting herself in her shoes, she is in an impossible situation. I have a lot of compassion for that, and I do agree with you. I do think that there is, she the way that it's even been said that she was groomed to be his husband, his wife specifically. Yes. Because of the problems that he has. So we don't know what is going on behind closed doors, and we need to have a little bit of compassion for that. And I do agree also that I worry for her safety, especially after what we heard from that porn star, that he became very violent with her.
Could you imagine what she's probably been dealing with?
Right.
Yeah. There's so much that we don't know, and she probably will never tell us. This is and I'm going to say this now, mark this now, and God, I hope I'm wrong, but this sounds like it's going to turn into an episode on a true crime podcast somewhere.
It already is. It already is. Like, just because no one has died doesn't mean it's not horrifying and
criminally.
Right. And we're never, just like with any true crime situation, we're never going to know all the answers.
Right.
I feel like, I don't know if I wish. I
don't want to be the prosecutor in that case. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh yeah.
No.
He was released 7 minutes ago. That's at least I'm still researching, but there you go. That's all I have to say. Yeah. I'm sorry I interrupted you guys. I struggle sometimes.
That's fine.
No, you did great.
As we said earlier in the episode, if you know anybody who has been affected by any sort of rape, abuse, or incest, please call the RAIN Network at 1-800-656-HOPE. And with that, we will leave, unless anybody has anything more to say about the subject. We will. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to me and giving me a voice. I do want to say that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. That's what we're here for. And we have been happy to dive down this rabbit hole again. And we will see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, shoot. And I didn't have the video lined up. Okay. Let's try this again.
For real. Bye again.
Yeah. For real. Bye.
Bye.